So we're going to get started with introductions, and we're going to ask our panelists to share your name, your pronouns, your former high school, your current college, and your class or grade level. So Chris Ann, and I'll put that in the chat in case we forget all those prompts.
Okay, so my name is Chris Ann Barnett. My pronouns are she, her, hers. My college is NYU. My high school was Brooklyn College Academy, and I'm a sophomore, double majoring in politics and sociology.
Actually, that is a great thing to add. Major, if you have declared one. Thank you, Chris Ann. Okay, next we have Catrice. So it'll be Catrice, Newshot, Olivia, Shuma, and Yessie.
Hi, my name's Catrice. I go to Syracuse University. I used to go to the Borum Hill School for International Studies, and my major is political science as of right now.
Awesome. Newshot, will you take a stab next?
I'm Nushat. I attend Hobart and Williamsburg colleges where I am a sophomore, majoring in international relations and religious studies, and I used to attend the Academy of American Studies.
Olivia.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm originally from Michigan, so I went to high school there, but I'm a senior at NYU. I'm studying politics and gender studies, and I'm also a youth coordinator for YVote, so some of you guys on the call might have done a training with me before.
We have no idea how Olivia, I sometimes think that Olivia is a clone because she's everywhere all the time. Thank you for being with us today, Olivia. Shuma.
Oh, you're muted.
Shuma, you're on mute.
Hi, sorry. Hi, everyone. I'm Shuma Yasmin from Brooklyn College. I'm doing BS in psychology and also doing minor in biochem. And I am sophomore. Well, I am sophomore, but because I graduated high school with 15 extra credit, I count as a junior instead of sophomore.
Which is something we might want to talk about during this call.
Right.
And Shuma, what high school did you go to?
I went to Energy Tech High School. It was in Astoria.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you. Yessie.
Hi, my name is Yessie. I'm a facilitator at YVote, if you don't already know. My college is Baruch College. I'm in my sophomore year, second semester, and my major is undecided business right now because I just transferred into Baruch.
And can you actually mention that, and it may come up a little bit later, but can you tell us where you started and what you did last semester? Because I think it's great.
Right. I went to NYC I School, by the way. I went to Barry University in Miami Shores, Florida first. Then I transferred to an online school, and which is called Shorter University, and then I'm back in the city for Baruch College.
Fantastic.
My major in Barry was international business, then switched to sports management, and then Shorter University was sports management, and then Baruch, I don't know yet because they don't have sports management, and I just know what I'm probably gonna minor in. So yeah, I did poli-sci or economics.
So folks on the call, feel free to be taking notes of things that you want to pose to panelists specifically or generally. You can also put those questions in the chat. For those of you who shared questions when you signed up for this, we've incorporated those into an initial set of questions that I'm going to pose, and then we'll open the floor. I am Sanda. I'm one of the co-founders of YVote. It's thrilling to have so many founding members and longtime members and alums of YVote with us today. And just a little bit of background of this, you know, we know that everyone has been constrained in various ways on and in your college journeys. And so we wanted to capitalize on this time today for these incredible college students, YVote alums, to be able to share their journey, things that they've learned along the way, and answer questions that you have. We see this conversation as a point of entry and hope that we can stay in conversation and be resources to you as you continue to explore options. So we'll start with a question for all panelists. And we'll maybe go in reverse order, so backwards alphabetically this time. And the question is, how and why did you choose your college? And along with that, what are factors you think students should consider when deciding a college? And how do you get the most accurate feel or understanding of what it's like to be a student in that college beyond the pretty brochure and like the advertising? And I'll put that in the chat for everyone as well. So Yassi, will you kick us off?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for everything that you just said.
Yes, I'm gonna put it in the, and I'll remind you, you don't have to answer all of it, but the key things for how you chose your college initially, and we know you transferred, so maybe telling us like what you thought and why you initially chose Barry, and maybe like what you learned once you got there. Because another question that some folks have raised in signing up are deciding about whether to stay in New York, whether to leave New York, and so perhaps you can share that as well.
So I decided to go to Barry because I wanted to go to a diverse school. So Barry is very diverse. Like, it's known for its diversity along the lines of like nationwide. So I went to Barry because I wanted it to be diverse. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. So like I chose a major because like I did a lot of internships in the business aspect, offices and stuff. And then I ended up changing my major. I liked the school, but it was just unprofessional for me. Like, I would go into offices and then I didn't feel like I was heard. Money-wise, like, I got to be, like, I did the RA process, so I was going to be RA, so then I wouldn't have to pay at all. Like, I had to take out a loan, but not as big. But I decided to transfer because I wasn't really, I felt like the academics were not as rigorous as well. So I went down to Florida expecting that it would be at the same level as I was, but it wasn't. So then I transferred. I noticed that I wanted to transfer too late. So then almost every school had a deadline, and I was already past the deadline, but they told me, oh, you can still be considered. But then I ended up choosing an online school because the other schools in New York didn't answer me, so like CUNY. And I wanted to go to CUNY because it was more affordable, and there was a lot of networks there. So I'm all about like meeting people and trying to find what I'm really passionate about. And I don't know, like, I felt like I wanted to get out of my comfort zone, but I was too comfortable in Florida. Like, it just felt like a vacation all the time, especially because I was in Miami. So then I came back to the city because I felt like I was getting the experiences I needed here. Like, I couldn't be a part of YVote. Like, I couldn't really move around. Like, I didn't have a car. So it was just, like, non-realistic for me. I did like dorm life, but, like, it was okay. Like, it was not, I feel like I wasn't getting the most out of what I should have been getting. Like, in the city, I can do anything and go everywhere and meet other people outside of my college and stuff like that. Like, I would have to pay for everywhere I went, like Uber rides, all of that, and it just got annoying after a while. So yeah, that's how I ended up in Baruch. I just wanted to be somewhere that I knew that I could make other networks and feel like it was very rigorous. Like, now I'm at Baruch and I'm like, oh snap, like I stepped back in Barry and like it feels way more rigorous. So I'm happy now because I love challenge, and I didn't feel challenged at my last school.
Fantastic, definitely.
And I didn't want to continue online. That's why I went to Baruch, but now I'm online, I guess. So
thank you for sharing that. And just like underscoring one of the things that Yassi said, it's so important to know yourself and like what is the best like match for you. And she talked about a bunch of different priorities that can be hard to sort through and figure out. So great example. Thank you for sharing. Shuma.
So I choose to stay in New York City because I had more family responsibilities, but I specifically chose Brooklyn College because I knew, like, from high school that I want to pursue medical school. But there was more, and after I did my resources, I saw there was more resources that was offered by Brooklyn College, because they had like MD program, which is uni downstate, and other things like research programs. So I know that I wanted to go there. Even though it was long commute, I was like, okay, I'm going to transfer, but then it became family. So I was like, it's not maybe worth it. And financial will be definitely one of them. They give me full scholarship, and why not?
Good, and it's good foreshadowing. We will definitely be talking about financial aid and scholarship, big factor in decision making. Thank you. Olivia. Now, Olivia, I think, is our only senior on the call, which is great. It's really nice to have the spectrum from freshman through senior. Olivia, do you remember all the way, 3.5 years ago?
Yes, it was very stressful. Just like a little bit of background. So Betsy DeVos, who is our current Secretary of Education, is originally from Michigan. And so Michigan public schools are absolutely gutted. Average tuition at a state school is about $30,000 to $35,000. So going to school out of state for me was going to cost the same as it would for me to stay in state. And I knew that I wanted to be in a city. So I was looking at schools in New York and in DC. And NYU was like my reach school. I knew that I wanted to study politics and gender studies, and I really liked the social and cultural analysis department at NYU. My degree is in gender and sexuality studies, so it's like much more inclusive, and I get definitely like a more diverse education, I think. So yeah, I think like the biggest thing for me.
You say you go to Michigan State?
No, I go to NYU. Michigan State, I didn't get any scholarship money for Michigan State, so it cost the same for me to go to NYU as it would to go to Michigan State with my
She grew up in Michigan.
Yeah. Which is insane. But I think like the biggest thing when you're thinking about college is like, and I think like you guys both spoke to this, is like thinking about what you want to do and leveraging like location for that. I knew I wanted to be involved in like politics and activism, and like being in a city enables me to like meet different people. Obviously I wouldn't be here with YVote today if I had stayed in Michigan. Leveraging your location, I think, is a really important like aspect to think about.
Thank you. Great perspective. It's hot.
So when I was looking at colleges, I kind of already knew what I wanted to do. Like I'd wanted to do international relations since I was 12 or so. And so I was looking at schools that would give me that opportunity. And the school I go to now has a 70% of our population ends up studying abroad. It's like this weird thing where people just disappear for a semester and then like they come back. And so I looked at that and I really liked that. But I also was worried about leaving the city and like leaving everything in New York. But at the same time, I thought I needed to get outside my comfort zone and go to a space that isn't like really diverse and understanding and aware of all these social issues. So then I chose the college that I went to, and they gave me a lot of money. So that's why I chose that.
That is fantastic. Thank you. Catrice, and just Catrice, before you begin, I will mention to our panelists, we have a couple questions coming into the chat. So if anyone wants to take a stab of answering them in the chat, feel free to do so as well. Catrice, how'd you choose?
Okay, so I don't think I said it in my intro, but I am a freshman. So for me, I chose last year, which is, wow.
Does it seem like a year ago or like a week ago or a decade ago or a little bit of all?
I can't believe that I'm almost done with my freshman year. It doesn't make sense to me, but for me, I picked Syracuse University because I really wanted to get out of my comfort zone. You know, like I grew up in the city, and I had applied to city schools, but then I figured that the most, like, I wanted to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and like I like to constantly push myself towards that, and I think that Syracuse University definitely did that for me. And I think that like another big factor for me was like I went to visit Syracuse University. I'd been there, I'd gone twice, and both time, well, 3 times actually, and like every time I went, I really liked the campus feel. Um, I really liked what I saw online. And I think like when you're picking your college, one thing that really helped me was like going on YouTube and like searching up my school and like obsessively looking at like all the different students who like post videos about like what their experience was like, or like this is my dorm, or like this is my, or whatever, because I feel like you really get a chance to see for yourself, first of all, a actual person's perspective of like their experience, based on like a certain aspect. And so like any like questions I had, whether it be like about dorm life or like meal plan or like social life or anything, um I just really like the YouTube thing really helps.
That is a fantastic idea. I personally would never have thought of that. So thank you for sharing that. And do you feel like that did give you an accurate sense? Like how much has life on campus like resembled life on Syracuse YouTube?
I think that it definitely is accurate. However, um, just a quick side, I feel like like if you're a student who goes away to a school that isn't diverse, I feel like there is like 2 separate experiences that exist. So it's like the students of color's experience versus like the students who are white and their experience. And like I think that those are 2 like separate experiences. Like they obviously like go to the same school, experience like generally the same things, but like once it comes down to it, like those 2 things are different in some aspects. And so I think like you really have to think about who you are hearing these things from, because like you like someone yeah, because some experiences are just not experienced by people who aren't of color and vice versa. And so really like depending on who you are and like what your values are, like thinking about that and taking that into consideration.
That's fantastic. And we are going to come back to that even more deeply too. Thank you, Catrice. Chris Ann.
Okay, so my process was absolutely overwhelming because I didn't really have a dream school, didn't really know what school I wanted to go to. So I applied to a lot of colleges, like 20 something. And I was talking, that's not okay. Yeah, I applied to 20 something schools. And I was talking to like my mentor, and the one school that she told me that like, this is my school, I'm meant to be there, this is gonna happen. And like, I built a whole life around that school. That was the one that I got rejected from. So like, yeah, after that, I was just like, I don't know what's gonna happen to me. Like, I was so sad. Like, it was a rough 2 weeks after that. And then I got my decision from NYU. That was like the very last decision that came in, because I already decided I might as well go to a CUNY, because I went to early college high school and I graduated with like 50 something college credits. So if I went to a CUNY, this would be my senior year. But I got my acceptance to NYU, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I would go to NYU, because I knew like I didn't really want to leave New York because all my family's in New York. But it was more like, do I really want to go to a school that's predominantly white, or is that really gonna matter because it's still in the city? So financial aid packages came, and my top decisions at that point was NYU and then Hunter. Hunter actually wanted me to pay more than NYU did, because NYU gave me a full tuition scholarship, but I didn't really know if I was meant to be at NYU. So I went to like this thing that they have called Weekend on the Square, where like you just do a bunch of stuff. They walk you around campus and they just talk. So I went there and I made some like really good friends, like 5 friends from high school also go to NYU, and I was like, you know what, might as well go, right? So I ended up there. The experience has been pretty good, but we'll get into the diversity and stuff later, you know, we'll get into that. Let me not do that right now.
Good previewing though. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so now we're going to go to a question that we can just answer popcorn style, people who have things to share about how have you navigated the financial aid process, and any pro tips to share in applying for scholarships. And just to underscore, and I think we heard this in a bunch of the stories, like you can't just look at the cost of a college. Like NYU sticker price is much more than Hunter, but Chris Ann's package made NYU a better deal, and Olivia is sharing like her state school was as expensive as private, NYU. So these things are really complicated, and they're somewhat predicated upon your financial aid package. So who would like to share your journey through financial aid and any hot tips for scholarships? Newsat, please go and tell us, enlighten us.
So when I applied to college, I also applied to more than 20 schools, and most of them were SUNY and CUNY because I knew they would give me the most money.
Or so you thought.
Yeah, yeah. But before that, I also signed up for scholarship websites like FastWeb. That would they send me emails every day to this day about scholarships that I don't look at. But I think when you apply to college, consider who you are kind of, and like the value you'll add to campus when you get there. So I am a POC and I get a lot more money, I feel like, partly for that reason, partly because I need more financial aid. But like colleges do want you. So when you choose a college, know that they're investing in you, but you're also investing in them. So you have the flexibility of appealing for more financial aid, which is what I did after my package. I wrote a letter to them being like, please help me. I don't want to die of debt, et cetera, et cetera. And they gave me like $2,000 more.
Per year?
Per year. So definitely appeal your package. Even so, if you get something that's not good, definitely appeal after. But also after you apply for FAFSA, apply for TAP or Pell. If you go to college in your state, you can get TAP or Pell. And look for scholarships that are for your ethnicity or for your socioeconomic background, because there are so many of them. Like there's a scholarship for being South Asian, which is great. So look at that.
Fantastic advice. Thank you. Anyone else have anything you'd like to share about financial aid or scholarships? Oh, wait, we have 3. Okay, Chris Ann and then Olivia.
Just to add on to the applying for scholarships part, I feel like websites like FastWeb, Scholarly, and things like that, they're useful to a certain extent because a lot of people apply to those. Look for the ones from sororities as well. Like sororities and fraternities do give a lot of scholarships, and usually a lot less people apply to them. And like organizations here and there, like smaller organizations are willing to give a lot of money. I realize, like you have organizations that will give like $1,000 here and there, and if you apply to like 5 of those, I guarantee you that you at least get one, because not a lot of people are applying, and that really helps because that helped me a lot. And also, when you appeal, it's okay to lie. They don't fact check. Lie. Go ahead. Don't lie too much, but lie a little bit. Lie enough.
Embellish. Good tips. Thank you, Chris Ann. Olivia.
I think like really having I think people are really afraid of student loans, which like is completely valid. But like, and obviously you should not take out more than you can pay back. But like the reality of the situation is, and like was for me, that like my family didn't have any savings for me to go to college, and my state schools were costing $30,000, and I was not getting any in-state money. So I think like knowing that it's okay to like take out a little bit if you need to, and also like you both said, appeal your financial aid. I think a lot of people don't realize that you can appeal your package every semester. Every time I've done it, I've gotten an extra $1,000 to $5,000 for the semester. And also like staying like on top of everything is important. Like I make a point of going into the financial aid office like in person twice a semester, just to make sure. That's like a little bit neurotic, but like it really just helps me make sure that like I know where everything is, like if I can apply for more work study money, just like that kind of stuff. They can also like point you to like scholarships you can apply for. So just like actually going in person and talking to a financial aid counselor I found to be really helpful.
That is a great example. and advocacy, which is something many of you on this call are part of YVote or other activism projects, and sort of thinking about how do you apply some of that activism and advocacy skill that you use to get people to vote or to push for changes in criminal justice or immigration, using that for your own advancement. Yessie.
I was gonna say my college counselor in high school really helped me out. I was a Posse scholar, like finalist or whatever. So that's one scholarship, or like the Gates scholarship. But go to if you're able to have that kind of connection or outside sources, like use your network. Like I was saying earlier, networks are really important because there's people that really want to help you out. And I know when I went to my college counselor, she like didn't tell me to go on FastWeb and stuff. She like sent me detailed stuff, like the YMCA gives out scholarships and people didn't know about, and like I didn't get it, but my friend got it. So like I know a lot of people like can get it. Also about like appealing, I appealed like a couple times to like different colleges and it didn't really work out for me, but I know like it still works if you know if like the school actually like has the money for you, especially because I was a transfer student. I knew that the money was really going to first year. But yeah, like CUNY was my best shot after transferring because they like cover everything for me at least. But yeah, when you're like in high school, I went to my college counselor a lot, and like I was a part of OpNet, which is a college, yeah, the opportunity network. Like they help with college readiness and career fluency. So like they like just using your networks really, like even if you're not a part of a nonprofit that helps you out with it, there's people that would be like, hey, like I have extra money, like I will see if I can reach out to other people, like try to fund your education. Because like if you're really important to other people that have the money or like that know of organizations that are giving out money, you'd be surprised at like what you find and stuff.
Great. So I'm definitely hearing like, don't be shy. Feel free to tap into your counselor, your networks, anyone who can support you. And people really like to do that. They like to be helpful, and so don't be shy. So following up on that, it's very clear all of you have gone to excellent colleges, gotten scholarships, and are doing really well. It can be really intimidating when you're applying to college. And one of our participants had written in with a question about, do you have any tips for writing college essays and shaping your application more broadly? Anyone like to share what that was like last year or 2 years ago when you were trying to make yourself competitive? Chris Ann.
I actually wrote mine with my nonprofit, but some really good advice that I got was to just be true to yourself. Because if you try to shape it for every college, then you're only going to be catering to that college, and you'll most likely have to alter it as you go by. But if you just talk about like something that you're passionate about, something that you hope to get out to campus, or like resources that you want to bring to the campus and things like that, and just be true to yourself, you don't really have to alter it that much, and it also flows better that way. Like try to tell a story, but also make it relevant to why you want to be in that college.
Beautiful. Good advice for life. Nusat.
I also worked on my essay with nonprofit, and something that they said to us in general was show, don't tell. So a lot of college essays, students tend to say, this happened to me, but you should really, I guess, use description and dialogue to really show to colleges what happened to you. And if you're answering the 750 like general essay that everyone has to answer, make sure to pick something that actually has affected you, because it really shows in your writing when you're fitting a stereotype or trying to, I guess, embellish to the point where it's just not believable. And if you can, try to pick something you're passionate about.
Nusat and Chris Ann, we have a question about what nonprofits specifically did you work with to help shape your essays and applications?
I'm a
go.
I'm a Caesar Fortune scholar, so I applied for that my sophomore year of high school, and I did it well, I'm still a Caesar Fortune scholar. I'm just a university scholar now. I think they have a program where you can do it online. If anybody wants more information, just like comment me down below and I'll find it for you.
Thank you, Chrisanne.
I went to Sunnyside Community Services, which is an SAT prep program, but then for seniors, they helped you with all of your essay writing for free the year after. So I think it was College Readiness Program at Sunnyside.
That is great. And Yessie has shared in the chat that she worked with the Opportunity Network and Let's Get Ready, which are two other great college readiness nonprofits. Terrific. Shuma, yes.
Hi. So similar to what everyone else says, do not summarize your accomplishment or what is like important to you. I think it's better to tell it in a story wise, and also have at least one person who can edit your essay. And I think that is important.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. The art of writing is editing, and definitely make sure you have enough time to get a good editor to help you. Yessie.
I was just gonna say, because my little sister's currently going through the process. So when I read her essay, like she was saying points and stuff, and I was like, you forgot to mention how you grew from this. So it's a lot about the colleges want to know what like how certain things impacted you, but like how you grew from that and how that makes you a better person. How will that like correlate to you being an on-campus student at their college? And like when it comes to supplements, it's a little different based on the school, but be sure you're being truthful and like showing your growth throughout, because most of the colleges in your first year, before you're applying to go into the school for the first year, want to know your growth and they want to know what happened, but they really specifically want to know how you grew from that and how you're going to grow from that.
Fantastic. We have a question from Yasmin that I think fits in well here. Yasmin, do you want to take yourself off of mute, introduce yourself, and pose the great question that you posed in the chat?
Yeah, hi. My name is Yasmin. I'm with TAP. I got the email through Kenny. So I was wondering, so I'm
just for those who don't know, that's the NYCLU's Teen Activist Project, beloved ally of ours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. So I'm choosing between, so I'm a senior right now and I'm deciding between two like colleges, and they're both very similar in terms of like the resources and like the cities and like everything is just very, very similar, and like also financially and stuff, but I still like I can't decide which one. And I was wondering like if you guys had any tips for like what like aspects that I'm like that maybe are not as obvious that I can look at to like make a final decision.
Olivia.
So I think like one thing that's really helpful, like in addition to watching YouTube videos, actually seeing if you can talk to students who go to that school, especially students who are like in the program you're thinking about. Like I like, for example, like I met like a high schooler over the summer and I like let him come and sit in to one of my classes with me. So like we have Zoom right now, like you might be able to just sit in and listen to a lecture for like a class in your program. It really comes down to like just knowing the kind of people that are on campus and like knowing if that's the kind of community you want to be in.
Great advice. Nushat.
Thank you.
I would definitely echo that. Reach out to the admissions offices of both colleges and be like, I'm from New York. Do you have any people from New York who adjust to the college there, and connect with them? And also look at the clubs and organizations on the college campus. Try to find an Engage page where all of them are listed, and then go to the Instagrams of those clubs and see what they're up to. And try to kind of figure out how involved people are on campus and what kind of communities are present there. I feel like that's really helpful when you're making connections on a campus. And I definitely second like dropping into a Zoom class. It's probably the easiest it'll ever be right now.
Yeah, that is such a great idea. So, you know, you can't visit as easily, but in some ways you can visit more easily from the comfort of your own sofa. Shuma, you're on mute.
Okay, so I think it's also important to see what are some programs that your specific college offers. So I go to CUNY, there's program like SEEK and C-STEP. Those are more like offering to students who are disadvantaged financially or even as a first generation students. And if you are really having a hard time to choose between two schools, I think you should look more into the programs or the scholarship that are specifically offered from the school.
Great counsel. Okay, so our next question, what do you wish you'd known in your senior year of high school that you know now? So for all those who might be, trying to think this through, is there anything that you, sort of learned that you'd like to have known sooner? Nusat.
I think the three things, and I think we've said them before, but time management skills. In college, you're going to be running around everywhere. I mean, depending on where you are, obviously, but you're going to be running, driving, or taking the train somewhere. So, prioritizing like your academics or your social sphere, or if you're on a sports team, and figuring out what you want to do the most is really important, and also how to juggle all of them. Two, I think figuring out how to say no is really important, especially if you're a first year and everyone wants you to like join whatever it is they're doing. And three would be mastering a note-taking strategy, I guess you could say, because in college, people are just talking. Rarely you'll have people write on boards, depending on what kind of school you're going to. So mastering that before you get there would be great.
Great tips. Catrice.
I think for me, definitely knowing like what is my own personal learning style, and like how that translates into like a college setting, because I think different professors teach different ways, and you're gonna have to take a lot of classes with a lot of different professors during your time in college, and it's really helpful to know like, okay, I learn best when like I hear things, when I see things, and then like trying to fit that in with either like, how you pick your classes, and like using like, rate my professor and things like that, or even like personally, like, okay, well, I know I have to take this certain amount of notes, or I need to like record the lecture and listen to it back later, and like things like that. And the second thing I wish I'd known before going into college is that sometimes sometimes while academics is definitely a factor that will be challenging, shifting your life from like that transition, like after you graduate, to where like you're like a completely new freshman and like you don't know anything about the campus yet, and like you're just like brand new, like that part is a little scary, but like also I wish that I was a little bit less scared, and I like let myself like enjoy that as much as I could. Yeah.
That is so important, right? It's not, we've been talking a lot about the academic part of this, and that of course is a huge part of college, but everything beyond the classroom. And we're going to be segueing into some of those questions too. So thanks for previewing that, Catrice. Chris Ann.
I would say the one thing I wish I knew, I'm still learning this actually, but go to office hours. Like professors are so much better when you like sit down with them and talk to them, because I have like 3 mentors that are professors, and there's no way that I would have had those mentors if I didn't go to office hours. And also they tend to be more lenient on your grade if they know you well, or like, if they see you making like mistakes in your work, they'll be like, I know this isn't you want to talk about it, and ask for extensions. Like my first year, I didn't ask for any extensions, and I lost my mind. I absolutely lost my mind. And then last semester I started asking for extensions, and it was the best thing that could ever happen to me. Like some professors are nice enough to give you like a week's extension even. So always ask questions.
Great advice. Olivia.
I think like I applied early decision, so I knew in December that I was going to NYU my senior year. But something that like I do wish that I had known was that like if you put the time and the work and the energy in, wherever you end up is the place that you're supposed to be. It might like take you a minute to get there, but like just knowing, like being able to center yourself and say like, okay, like I'm doing the best that I can and like this is where I'm supposed to be, I think was like something that I sort of had to learn as I went through, and it would have been very helpful for me when I was a senior in high school.
Yes, so important. Shuma.
So something that I have learned along with in college is stretch management, because when you go from high school to college, it's like huge transitions. And most of the time you're like studying, and also then you have more responsibilities like work, family, and as you grow up, it just comes in. And also self-care is important, because you wanted to take care of yourself, you wanted to find your hobbies, and you want to make sure you are doing them, and also be yourself, because it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. In the end, it's all you.
So critical, and I feel like that's a theme, and there's a lot about the college process that can make us feel like we can't be ourselves, or they're looking for something, but that is so important. We had a question in the chat from Adeline. Would you like to take yourself off mute and share this?
Yes, hi everyone. I didn't get to introduce myself, but hi, I'm Adeline. I am also with NYCLU TAP program, and I got to know this through Kenneth's email. And I just had a question about balancing schoolworks and extracurriculars. So how would you describe your experience has been, and what advice do you have on balancing those two? Thank you.
Great, and I forgot to take some of the participants' hands off, so if I call on you and you didn't raise your hand, you could just let me know that. Yessie, as someone who I know has a very rich extracurricular life.
So I did, at Barry, I had 2 jobs. In Florida, I had 2 jobs, and I also play club volleyball. So I'm more of a routine person, so the way I balanced it was that I knew that I had to do my homework before the certain time, because I knew I had to go to volleyball. So once you start like getting into a routine, like I didn't go to the gym in the afternoon because I knew I would make up an excuse not to go. So I would go in the morning before class, then shower, then go to class. Then after class, like I would eat and stuff. And then I would go back to my dorm and do my work, and then I realized I had work study, went to work study. And it's like, I don't know, for me, having a routine keeps me happy and like motivated, because I know what's next. Having too much free time, like right now I'm going insane because I like being outside, I guess, and like I value that we have to stay in, and like I'm not getting a routine at home, so I have to figure that out right now. But then when I did it online, I was doing a lot of stuff in New York as well. So it was always a routine. I would go in the morning to the gym, like try to go in the morning, because then if you go to the gym in the morning, you won't make an excuse about it later. But yeah, the way I like really manage that is by doing a routine, like putting it down on my phone, like maybe as my screen cover, and be like, oh, I have to do this and that, like just daily reminders. I mean, if it stresses you out, then like try to take stuff out and like cross stuff out. Journaling can help too. Like I find myself using a planner a lot. So yeah, it's very like, it makes you do like a strict thing where you have to do your work before you go out and do other stuff.
Such good advice. Thank you. Catrice.
I think I agree with Yessie completely. Like building a routine is so important, especially if you consider that like when you leave high school, like high school is one giant routine. Like they plan out like when you switch classes, when you eat food, like when you go home, and like things like that. But then when you get to college, all of that is kind of like shaken up, especially if you like live at your college. because now it's up to you to figure out, when do you eat, when do I do my homework, when do I go to my clubs. So like having a planner is so important, and keeping that planner updated is also so important, because things do slip through the cracks if you like let them, because everything is coming at you like all at once sometimes, and it can be really easy to like focus like on one thing, like maybe you have like a test coming up, but like really planning your time is important. Yeah.
Thank you. Chrisanne.
Definitely don't overextend yourself. I mean, for me, I didn't really do sports or anything, but my first year, I wasn't really involved in that many clubs, but I did have this one club that I went to because it was like BSU but without BSU. So like that's where I found my community. And I went to like Caribbean Student Association like once or twice. But last semester I had like 3 jobs and I still went to all my extracurriculars. I was on the e-board for clubs. So like I was like working like back to back to back to back. And one thing that really helped is when you have a lot of things on your plate, make sure that the school that you go to has a good mental health program. Because for me, like, I know that I was going to be stressed out, but these are all things that I wanted to do. And some of these things were things that I couldn't do any other semester. So for me, it was more like, do I want to do this or do I want to miss this opportunity? Like, I'd rather do it and be stressed and know I can rely on the stress management resources at NYU rather than not do it at all and miss the opportunity.
I just want to uplift that most colleges do have really good and probably better than your high school, like mental health and counseling supports. And they're often free and like use it. It won't be free necessarily after college. So that's part of what you're developing, like your holistic self. So great advice, Sam. Olivia.
So I think like one of the things I like do a lot, I pretty much work full time as a youth coordinator for NYC Votes, and I'm also still full time.
Actually, she works double time. I like quadruple time.
Olivia. Also, it's okay. Thank you, Cinda. I'm also on the e-board for a club at NYU, and I also have 2 other jobs outside of this. Something that was like my saving grace sophomore year is that I got a desk job. It was a work study job. It's at the front desk of the NYU economics department. That's where I get all of my homework done. If you can find a work study job where it's like a lot of sitting and answering the phone, honestly, like it's the best thing ever. Would highly recommend it. That's really helped me sort of like balance my school and work.
Such a great, I so wish I had done that. I had really interesting jobs in college, but a desk job might have come in handy. Thank you. Nusat.
I ditto that entirely. Make sure that you call the admissions office and ask them what kind of work study options are available. Figure out what kind of offices are open for those kinds of jobs so that you can then apply for them. I would also say take out one day or time slot in your whole week where you're not answering emails or doing phone calls or doing work. Like have a self-care portion dedicated to you because then you won't feel as rushed and stressed. I would also say when you are doing extracurriculars, make sure that you have social connections and communities within those extracurriculars because then it's kind of like you're socializing, but you're also getting work done. So you don't feel like you have to juggle and condense everything together. And if your school has a center for teaching and learning, make sure to go to someone and plan out your day with them, like a study mentor. I think that's really helpful.
Yes. Great advice. Shuma. You're on mute again.
Sorry. I think finding the balance is really important because in college, there's so much that you can do and you don't want to overwhelm yourself. So for me, past 3 semesters, I work outside of the campus and in the campus, and it was overwhelming. So I did not involve any clubs. But now that I don't work and I'm financially stable, now I am like, being e-board members for 2 of the clubs and trying to join the student government too. And also, if you're trying to look for a job, that is like less overwhelming, I think you should definitely look for study in the campus. And also there's a learning center where you can tutor. I think you should definitely apply for those, because every college has a learning center, and if you're like doing good on the specific subject, you should definitely apply. And it's like easy money, and still you can be educated.
Great answers. Thank you. Zach, I know Yessie answered, but some others might have questions. You want to take yourself off mute and share your question? Zach, you want to take yourself off mute? Okay, Zach might be in a place where he can't take himself off mute, so I will raise his question, which was just about finding people to write recommendations. Anyone want to share sort of how you decided who to have write you recommendations, whether you think it makes a difference, like if you were shy about it, how you went about it? So recommendation advice. Yes, Olivia.
So one thing to think about is that every school has really specific guidelines for like who you should get recommendations from. And it's important to follow those rules, because if they say like you have to have one, like they might require you get them from a teacher and a counselor, or a teacher and an extracurricular advisor or something. So like following those, and also like thinking about the programs you want to apply to. I applied to politics and gender studies. So like I got recommendations from my history and English teachers in high school. So just like thinking about, and just like anyone who knows you really well too is always good.
Yes, and I will underscore that. So I have written many recommendations for students, which I love doing. But one of my heartbreaks was writing a recommendation for the editor-in-chief of our blog for Next Generation Politics. Only to find out that she couldn't actually submit my recommendation because it needed to be an academic teacher, and I worked with her extracurricularly. So that was heartbreaking for her and for me, who had spent a lot of time on her recommendation. So echoing what Olivia said. Nusat.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, if you can't use those recommenders now, you could for future opportunities, whether that be like for jobs or scholarships or other kinds of opportunities. So keep that in mind.
You know, that is such a great point. I actually I had an amazing recommendation from a college teacher that I ended up using for grad school years later and for a job. So like in that example where I said, you know, Alex, our editor-in-chief, she was able to use my recommendation for some things, just like not for one program, but she held on to it and she'll use it for other things. So if you have someone who you know loves you and can speak to your talents, you can also put that in as something supplemental. So like make sure that you get all of the other ones, but it can't hurt to throw in an extra. Okay. Let me look at our list. I know we are running low on time. Oh, we really have. Okay, well, for people who have to leave when you need to leave, that's fine, but we're going into a really important one. So I want to ask a question that has come up a little bit before, but about do you find yourself, how much do you or don't you find yourself interacting with people very different from you in terms of socioeconomic, racial, political, religious, gender, or sexual identity? Would love to hear people's thoughts about this. Catrice.
So I go to a PWI, so it is like a primarily
yes, I was going to say, for those who may not know that acronym.
Yeah, it's a primarily white institution. And for my freshman year, I lived in the sport management learning community. So basically, like, a learning community is like something that my university does. I'm sure that other colleges do it too, where they put people who have like similar majors together to like live together in like the same space. And my roommate was a sports management major, hence why I was in that learning community. And we were the only two Black girls in our hall. and then we were like 2 of 4 Black girls in the hall. So like there were 4 girls and 2 of them were Black, and then the rest were white boys. And so like you know, initially I was a little worried because I didn't really know anything about sports, you know. And I have never been, like, I'm from New York City, so I've never had the experience of being in a space that was just like primarily white people. And I think that like one of the most important things is like really like being open and like allowing yourself to just like try completely new things, you know, and like interact with people who you never thought that you like would. So like I didn't really have like I never made like a conscious choice to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna hang out with these people because like I lived with them. But like it really like opened my eyes to see like everybody really does have like their own like lived experience, and they're so like they're so different. And so like I've definitely like I definitely feel a lot more like worldly, you know, if that makes any sense, now that like I've interacted with like so many different people, not just the people from my hall, because like in college you really never know like who you will meet. It's really just a matter of like where you are and like what you're willing to do.
Such great advice. Thank you, Catrice. Nusat.
So I also attend a PWI, but it's a lot smaller of a school, so it's like we're all like packed into this little area. So there is no, I guess, distancing in a way you could say. People are everywhere. I think we are 78% white. And so I've never experienced what it was, I guess, like to be someone of my race and religion, like, and to be looked at that exactly until I went to a space like that. But in a lot of ways, it's taught me a lot of things about how to navigate difficult conversations regarding my identity. But it's also taught me, I guess, to understand that it's not really my responsibility to be talking about those things all the time. So I think knowing that it is not your responsibility and you have the right to decline to answer a lot of questions is really important. But then also keeping an open mind and trying to connect with someone on similarities rather than differences is probably the best way to make better connections. And that's what a lot of my experience has been like, especially as someone who's worked in a public office at the colleges.
Great advice. Chris-Anne.
For me, I'm a double major in politics and sociology, so I'm bound to be in a room that's mostly white men. And I mean, let's just be honest, that's really the truth. My first year, it was like so uncomfortable. Like even in my classes that were supposed to be more diverse, like my Caribbean cultures class was the majority white. So like
I'm sorry,
a lot of the
what
time.
college do you attend?
Wait, what?
I'm sorry, what college do you attend?
NYU.
Okay.
Yeah. So for me, like I constantly found myself trapped in a space with people that were nothing like me. And even though I commute, so it's like I get to get away from it, but there's a big difference when you walk into a classroom than when you're actually on the street. And it's also the neighborhood that the school is in, because NYU is in like one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in New York City. So you're bound to be around people in a very different socioeconomic status. But I feel like it helped me a lot because now, like in my job, I'm the only Black person that works there, and I'm able to have these difficult conversations with them. But it also like took a toll on my mental health my first year because I didn't really know how to deal with it. There was a lot of microaggressions from professors at times. So it's like, make sure you have people that you know you can count on, because I met this one professor and she's been my saving grace ever since. Like she really stands up for me. There are professors that are willing to help you deal with these things, but it's also like you have to take into account what happens if somebody in a high position is someone that's perpetuating these biases or someone that's being microaggressive. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Olivia, you're on mute.
So I'm also a politics student at NYU, so like I know how that goes. Just like if you are like a white person in your class and you see somebody who's like being racist or offensive, like you really do have a responsibility to step in and say something. Just like I feel like that's important to think about, because like it's really not the job of like people who are dealing with this to like say something about it.
Thank you. Such an important piece of the equation. And it also has echoes of Nusat saying it's not your responsibility as a POC to answer questions for all of your race or ethnicity. So thank you for being a good white ally, Olivia. Okay, I know we are running a little bit over time, but for those who are willing to wait, especially since I know we have a lot of activists on this call, would love to hear a little bit about, I'm going to push two questions together so you can answer either part or both together. How have your views on politics changed or become stronger or different in college? And like what opportunities for activism have you pursued or do you plan to pursue? Catrice.
Okay. So I feel like this is kind of like a loaded question for me. I don't know if any of you have like been like keeping up with the news. But like this year at Syracuse University, a lot has gone down. So just like a little bit of background for those of you who don't know, like I don't really see, it's a lot. So like sometimes it's like a little tricky to know where to start. But right before Thanksgiving break, we had a bias incident where someone like vandalized a bathroom and like wrote like slurs all over it. And then like from that week, we had like we basically had a bias incident every day leading up to Thanksgiving break. And we also had a continuation of those bias incidents after we got back from Christmas break. So like the first time that like, you know, these incidents on campus like happened, I was so dedicated to being an activist on my campus. There was a protest happening at like one of the school's facilities, and I like stayed in there, I slept in there, I protested, and like I made sure that people like everybody who was around me like come sit at the protest for a couple hours. And it was like a really like positive experience. And the students who organized the protest came up with like a list of demands, and like we were working with administration to kind of like negotiate and like get those through. And then Christmas break happened, and then like that kind of faded, so they continued into second semester, and that's where things kind of got very hostile. So what happened was that like protesters decided to keep protesting because the administration was saying that things were happening in regards to the like negotiations, like they were doing things that weren't happening. So protesters decided to protest in the administration building, and the administration decided that the best course of action was to suspend those students who were in the building. I was gonna go protest that day, but I didn't go because it was also happened to be like a very busy week for me academically. So I decided to study instead, and we found out that the students had gotten suspended. So like if they left the building that they were protesting in, well, they could be arrested by like our campus police if they had left. And it was like better for them to stay in a group. So as a response, my school decided to cut off people from entering or exiting the building. They placed department police at the doors, and the protesters who were in there did not expect to be blocked in like that. So they got no food, no water. The administration turned off the heat. There were protesters outside of the building, and those protesters had stayed there for like hours and hours, and like in the snow, and it kind of just like got worse and worse and worse. And I think that like being at school with like that happening on my campus was definitely something like it taught me a lot. So first, the first thing it taught me is that like, yes, while it is important to be an activist, you can't physically be an activist all the time. Like while you definitely have that label, like you are an activist, but like I knew for myself, like going to that protest, I did not feel safe, because like the actions of like the campus police, like they were going crazy, they were saying things to students, they were reaching for their guns, and it was just not like a situation where I felt like it was safe. B, knowing that it really does feel like hopeless sometimes to like try and protest against like institutions that have been operating for like 150 years and like are committed to maintaining like what they've been doing for the last 150 years, and are not willing, and knowing that like whatever change that you are there to protest is not going to happen rapidly, because just as fast, just as slowly, as just as long of a time that like institution has been in place, like you have to realize that like if it does happen, it will happen like extremely slow. And lastly, knowing that like, yes, this happened on my campus, yes, I am disgusted by my administration, it also doesn't take away from the fact that like I've really enjoyed my time at my school, and I wouldn't like going back, like I don't think, well, maybe I would have picked a different school, but I definitely enjoyed my first year, and I love my school, and like the professors and like knowing that like just because like the top may be like terrible, like in terms of like admin, like you do have people who you can go to, and there are like professors who voice their support, and like knowing that like it all depends on your support system and how like and knowing that your mental health is a priority during times like these. I did not mean for it to be that long, but
there was a lot of richness there. I think we all got a lot out of it. Thank you for sharing that. The good, the bad, the ugly. Nusat.
I just want to ditto that. Make sure that your mental health is your priority. You don't need to be the solution or be pursuing the solution to every problem, especially if you think you need to because you're a POC. That's just not how you should be pursuing things. It's not healthy. One thing that I want to say is when you're tackling a problem, either as an activist or just as a student, figure out if you want to work in institution or outside of institution. Do you want to run in institutions that are already in place, as in like student government offices or clubs that already exist that are there to work for these issues? And do you want to make alliances with them? Or do you want to run outside of that and I guess work from a more covert and non-institution allied focus, I guess you could say. My experience in this kind of comes from working in institution and outside of institution. So my first year I ran for vice president of Women's Youth Congress, which is one of our student government running bodies. And we did a lot of work there, and then I didn't run again. And then I got a lot of work done outside of that as well. So figure out what is available already and try to pursue things from the inside and or outside depending on what you want to do. And then if there is a problem, don't assume that not everyone else will want to work with you on it, even people who aren't affected by the problem. So for example, my first year, we got free menstrual hygiene products on campus, and like that's not something that only affects women. So we got a lot of people working on that, and collectivized and allied with one another to get that done. If it's we had an issue of racist graffiti on one of our parking lots. They put hashtag MAGA and build that wall on a wall. But then they spelled MAGA wrong. So everyone was like, is it satire, etc. They spelled it MAGAGA. And like after that happened, a lot of people came together and they were like, this is unacceptable. Why aren't we having response from this? So make sure to connect with other groups and unify around that cause, because a lot of people will be interested in what you're doing and will already want to work on it. And
I'm sorry, I didn't get what college you attend.
Hobart and Williamson colleges.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No
In
problem.
Geneva, New York, upstate.
Yes, so we're like upstate. We're like the upstate that you've never heard about. That's how upstate we are.
I've heard of your college, don't worry about it. I'm looking into liberal arts colleges.
Wow. Okay. Well, if you have any questions, please let me know.
I will.
TT taking up on that.
And also try to figure out where money is coming from that funds all the cultural clubs or just clubs in general, because that's where you'll get a lot of leveraging power. So if you if you need funding, right, you'll need to know where the money is coming from, and I guess tackle quote unquote that first, because it'll solve a lot of problems.
Great point. Chris Ann.
Okay, for me, it's definitely changed my activism in the sense that I'm more passive with it now. Because before, like, I was very like, this is my point, I need to get it across. But sometimes passive activism can help you. Like, it doesn't really take as much of a toll on your mental health, because I definitely feel like it's not my place to always correct things now. But it's also like knowing when to talk and knowing who to talk to. Because for me, like, first semester, there were protests about the use of Aramark or something. It was like our dining hall company, and all my friends were there. Like, everyone was sitting there like protesting. I was like, wow, this is something that I want to do. But sometimes you have to make a decision between what's morally right and what's right for you, because I know for a fact that if I sat there as the darkest person and was protesting along with them, they could spot me a mile away. There's not that many Black people at NYU, and there's not that many Black first years to talk about that. And like, I can't lose my scholarship money because how am I going to pay for NYU? So like, thinking about things like that is very essential. And it's also like knowing who to talk to and knowing when to speak. Like, as much as I love getting my point across, sometimes when you do it all the time, you start to realize that people don't really listen that much. So it's better if you like have a point and build upon that point, so that when you finally are able to speak upon it, you have all the details necessary. You can argue with anything and anybody about what you're saying. So I feel like that's better than like having random or like little moments where you're like, this is what I'm passionate about, I'm gonna argue this. Like, sometimes you need to take a step back in order to take a step forward.
Love that. Very wise. Take a step back to take a step forward. Thank you, Chris Ann. Olivia.
Kind of like echoing off of what Chris Ann was saying, like NYU is really horrible to student activists. It's like not, they will threaten to take away your scholarship money by calling your parents first and like not telling students that they're doing that. And so like I've kind of learned that like I don't have the time or the energy to fight with NYU. And so something that like my club shifted their focus into doing was figuring out how we can use we get a huge club budget. So we were like, how can we use our club budget to support local organizations outside of NYU? Not only to like make sure that our work is not insular, but like also to just sort of like make sure we're actually having an impact. So we'll bring in speakers from local organizations like the New Economy Project or Riders Alliance, which is a transit advocacy group, and we'll pay someone like $150 to come in and lead a meeting and sort of talk about the work that they're doing. You can also kind of see like what local orgs are doing and see if your club can plug in. So like, can we order you guys pizza one night, or like, can we do a phone bank or like a text campaign or something? So I think just like especially thinking about passive activism, finding like smaller things that you can do that don't just completely drain yourself every day. And like those things do like add up ultimately. So yeah.
And also to remember that you have your life to be an activist, so sometimes other priorities come to the forefront. Thank you, Olivia. Shuma.
So after going to college, I have really become more passionate about activism and politics, because even though I'm trying to pursue a career in healthcare, but the politics and everything else that is happening is still there. And I have really come more depth into it after I have done research at SUNY Downstate Medical Center and how health disparities is affecting all of us. And I'm still trying to learn more about it. And I see how much it helped me for being involved in a YVote and actually, you know, learning about it. So I'm looking forward because it's all there.
And I love that example that Shuma shared, because like activism doesn't have to just be outside the classroom, like looking through your research at health disparities, like that is a great example of like academic activism to pursue. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, I have a final question. I know that it is after the time people have committed. Just in case people need to get off, can we just have a hand for these amazing, amazing college students that we've been so fortunate to be with? Just like, thank you all so, so much. This is so valuable. And for others, like this call was recorded. So if you have friends who you're like, oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so wasn't here, they would have gotten so much out of it. You can email and we will share the recording. Okay, so the last question, if no one else has something that's burning from the crowd, feel free to put it in the chat if you do have a question that you want to ask. But my question is about what future goals do you have for yourself in college? We'd just love to hear. And you can answer that short or long term. So it can be like a short-term goal now while you are unexpectedly home doing remote learning, or more broadly, like once you get back to campus for the ensuing years, like what goals do you have? Yessie.
So I just started at Baruch, so I really want to get more involved because I feel like I haven't established a routine, and I'm really big on routine. So having like a time slot where I'm just in a club makes me feel like I'm involved. And that's how, like at Baruch, there's so many people, and it goes by so fast that you don't really get the time to talk to people in the classroom and stuff like I did in my smaller school when I was when I was in Florida. So I feel like I need to join a club in order to like interact with others and stuff. So that's like my short-term or long-term goal, depending on how long this pandemic lasts. And they also like canceled the clubs, so like they're not even meeting online. I mean, I think there's 2 clubs that are meeting online voluntarily. So like maybe I'll look into that. But yeah, I've been following like some clubs on Instagram and stuff to keep myself motivated to know what should I do or what should I join.
Great. Chris-Ann.
For me, it's to stop spreading myself so thin, because I do a lot, but the thing is like there are a few clubs that I'm really passionate about and a few clubs that I know I want to carry all the way through until senior year. And also I need to finalize what I want to do after. Like, do I want to go to law school straight away? How do I get a job as a politics major in this economy? Like things like that.
Those are really great and very related. Thank you. Nusat.
I ditto not spreading myself too thin. Probably gonna try to do that as junior year comes. I'm gonna finalize like my study abroad opportunity. I applied to Jordan, so hopefully I will be in Jordan around, I guess is a long-term goal, around this time next year.
So the spring of your junior year is when you applied to go?
Yeah, so I applied this year and then it's a year process, so like you go next year.
Great. That sounds fantastic. Shuma. You are on mute.
Okay, so now that I don't work, I'm trying to take all the advantage from the college that like the resources they offer, and one of them will be study abroad. I'm applying right now.
Where are you hoping to go?
Yes, Morocco.
Ah, exciting.
And then clubs and activities also make sure I get my study done for MCAT. Yeah.
Those are the medical boards?
Yes.
Wow, okay. Fantastic. Olivia.
Unfortunately, this is my last semester. So like, I'm really just trying to get through this semester with a positive attitude as much as I can. And also just hopefully have some sort of like job lined up. Hopefully I'll still be with NYC Votes. But yeah, I kind of like had to adjust to have smaller goals for myself right now, given the circumstances, but we'll get through it.
Yes, I'm really hoping both for those of you who are seniors in college and seniors in high school that we can have some way of coming up with rituals that can't replace what you're missing, but that at least acknowledge them and some sort of an alternative celebration, because it's really, really hard. So we will figure out some sort of rite of passage to do with you, Olivia, hopefully. Catrice.
I think for me, I want to figure out ways to get more involved on campus, and I really want to think about like what hard skill to make my second major.
Are there some you're considering?
As of right now, I have no idea. I really want to do policy studies, but it's interesting at my school, so we'll see.
Yes, there are many factors to take into consideration. Well, hopefully this time away from campus might create more clarity. And as a reminder, Catrice is just in her first year, so you've got time to figure that stuff out. I know people who change their major up and through senior year. Olivia probably does too, so pace yourself. This has been fantastic. Oh, will you say this out loud, Olivia? I think that this is a great thing for everyone to hear if they don't see it in the comment.
Just to do like a little plug for my club that I'm in, I'm part of the Roosevelt Network, which is like the campus initiative of the Roosevelt Institute, which is a progressive public policy think tank. It's a really great way to get involved, to learn hard skills like lobbying, policy writing, policy research. They're based in New York City. There's like, I work there. So like I have a part-time job there right now. I'm like a policy coordinator, so I help students across the country with their policies. They also have tons of internship and like incubator projects so you can get paid to like do maybe some of the activism that you're already doing. It's just like the best thing ever if anyone has questions. And I think it goes hand in hand with a lot of like what YVote does as well. So if anyone has questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Yes, it's a great example because YVote is just at high school. So we love programs that pick up where we leave off. But I will leave us with that. So all the folks here are former YVoters and YVote allies with Olivia, and we will keep you posted of programming once we are back to doing on campus or in-person programming. We hope to be able to run our summer program this summer, as well as our annual youth town hall with elected officials and civic movers and shakers. So we'll keep you posted of those things. If you have any follow-up questions from tonight, you can feel free to email me at sanda@yvoteny.org, and I can put you in touch with any of the folks here who are willing to continue to stay in conversation. And again, we just encourage you to use this time to do what you can, online, to reflect. We've heard mixed things about how remote learning is going, but to take agency over your own learning and learn things that you want to learn, read things that you want to do. Like, this is a really challenging time, but it's also an opportunity to stretch yourself in some different ways, inclusive of exploring colleges. So thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you to our amazing panelists. I learned and was just really inspired by listening to you tonight. So thank you, everyone. I'll echo Adeline's line, which I totally agree with. The advice was so insightful and helpful. So thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Good night, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Good night.